conversation that matters.
All right, Ciara, or should I say Róisín, Cata Ciara nuas Béal Feirste.
Neil
The sun is shining on Grianic Tana Vugas to Fain.
August the Saulig and Scale and stuff. Same here now. Beautiful sunny day in Béal Feirste. Thanks a million for having us on.
I'm curious as to what's going on there with regards to the Irish language, Irish signage, maybe the tricolour, things like this at the Queen's University. What's going on?
Thank you, Father Guts Neil. You're dead right. So I'm speaking to you now from the campus of Queen's as it happens, on Skull Arena. And basically what's happening, Neil, is there's kind of a really strong student-led campaign at the moment, driven by the students to erect bilingual signage on campus. So I'm talking to you here, and right in front of me, there's signs in front of me in English only. So there's this notion of kind of compulsory monolingualism on the campus. And students over the years have been campaigning to erect bilingual signage, which would place the Irish language, Ireland's indigenous language, alongside the English language on equal footing, you know. So I suppose that's our main message is that this isn't like an outlandish demand, really. It's really a question of equality and social justice, that both Irish language speakers and English speakers will be represented on this campus.
Okay, and there are a lot from the south that are up in Queen's studying. Like you're a Toca girl up there, right?
I am Toca girl and proud, that's it. And Joel, I'm after getting a terrible reputation now for being obnoxiously proud Cork woman. So
with who? Who's giving you? I mean, who's saying that you're obnoxiously proud Cork woman?
I know it's only friendly banter, but no, it's funny. Like, sure, you know, Cork ones, we'd be very proud of where we're from. But that's it. Like, there's myself and a few others.
In the 90s, right up until the back end of the 90s, correct me if I'm right, there was Irish language signs, but they got taken down or something, did they?
Yes, you're spot on. So it was back in the 80s. There was actually bilingual signage inside in the Students' Union. And what happened was 10 years later there was kind of an equality commission came in and drew up a report, and they came to the bizarre conclusion that the Irish language is not compatible with a neutral working environment. And that's their own wording.
What language is compatible with a neutral working environment then?
I know, it's bizarre, like that's the thing. And I suppose that's something I'd also ask your listeners to reflect on as well, is this notion of neutrality. People forget that for a lot of people in Ireland and across the globe, the English language isn't a natural or a neutral one at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The English language for so many of us represents a tool of empire that was forced down our throats through centuries of colonialism. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose people speak about, in the South particularly, about the Irish language being beaten into us, but it was also bait out of us, and we have to remember that too. Do you know what I mean?
Well said, you. I heard that, correct me if I'm wrong, it has something to do with the unionist community felt that it made the university a cold place. Unpack that.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, the wording was something along the lines of that the language had a chill factor for the unionist community.
A chill factor?
I suppose, again, like, you know, it's not that we're looking for Irish only signage on campus. We're looking for equality, for both languages to be represented and both traditions, if you will, to be respected and feel welcome in this campus. And that's all aligning with the objectives of the Good Friday Agreement. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
You can't kind of pick and choose, or at least you shouldn't pick and choose the bits that you like and leave out the bits you don't. I mean,
absolutely.
There would be a very big population north of the border that would be proud All-Ireland people.
Absolutely, yeah, rightly so. And
would have nationalistic
the unionist
views.
Community. Yeah, do you know, that's the whole ethos of the Good Friday Agreement, is that you can choose what your identity and nationality is like. But I suppose a lot of that kind of unionist ethos is reflected in much of the correspondence from the university in recent years. So, for example, a couple of years ago, back in 2018, students mobilised against this compulsory monolingualism on campus again, and they spoke to university management about the issue, demanding just equality in terms of language representation. And they got a letter back from the Vice-Chancellor of the university, who claimed again that the language could be considered something, if I remember correctly, the words were provocative, offensive or intimidatory.
Oh my God.
So,
okay, let's look at just the provocative aspect of that. What are they suggesting? That it would lead to arguments, that it might lead to people falling out, or it could become verbally abusive across the divide, if you like, unionists, nationalists?
Yes, exactly. That's it, Neil. And to be fair, the university kind of withdrew that statement since, you know, but I suppose it's still reflected in practice, the fact that there hasn't been bilingual signage directed. And I suppose, again, it comes down to, I suppose, maybe the history of the North. you very kind of, I suppose, strong identities, and unfortunately for reasons I suppose ununderstandable to myself and the unionist community, and I shouldn't say the unionist community, but rather elements of political unionism are very hostile towards the language. And it's been kind of to the forefront of the political arena in the north in recent years, especially as the language movement has grown and gained strength here over the years.
Exactly. How are students from the Republic treated? I mean, is there hostility? Are people kind to you?
Absolutely. I've had a great experience up here, and that's why I'm confident that Queen's will do the right thing ultimately, because again, it's a question of social justice and equality. I've had a great experience up here. Again, I speak more Irish up in Belfast than I do English in terms of the community and my friends here on campus. So it's just about time that the university actually reflects that back to us.
And are you talking about a kind of Gaeilge on campus, for instance?
Sinead, Larry, níos mó Gaeilge and seo. I speak more Irish really on campus and all around Belfast than anywhere else.
Okay, how does that go down then with people that may well overhear?
Sorry, you might say that again, Neil?
I'm saying, how does it go down? What is the reaction from people who might overhear you speaking Os Gaeilge?
It's always overwhelmingly positive. Like, wherever I am in the country, whenever I speak Irish in public, you'll always have people come up to you and say, oh, it's lovely to hear the language, So there's a lot of goodwill, and that's what I'm saying. I think the hostility towards the language, it's only a minority of political unionism who are doing it for political reasons. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I suppose you have to remember, and what people in the south might know and people in Cork might know, is there's a really, really strong community bottom-up revival in Belfast at the moment in terms of the language. It's so successful that Belfast now has the highest percentage, or one of the highest percentages of Irish speakers in all of Ireland, and also it is a really strong campaigning culture. So back in 2022, again, the language was kind of brought to the forefront of the political arena, and the Down Darug, the language campaigning group, which means like the Red Group, they managed to bring 20,000 Gaels to the streets of Béal Feirste demanding language rights and legislation, and they successfully pushed the British government to actually introduce language legislation 4 days after their mobilisation in Belfast city centre. So that's the context in which we're working with.
When was that?
That was only 2022.
Yeah, because I remember Queen's University, remember the students that marched for civil rights from Belfast to Derry in 68. You were way too young to remember that. They got attacked by police, they got attacked by loyalists. They never gave up though, and they made that march for civil rights from Belfast to Derry. Always stood up for people's civil rights, Desi reminds us by text this morning, and that shouldn't be forgotten. So, Kata Tu Yenev in St. Colashta, what are you doing?
So I did a PhD. I'm actually doing a PhD myself, and I'm researching this revival bottom-up movement, language movement in Béal Feirste. So it's been an absolute privilege. I'm looking at how young people and working class communities have reclaimed the language and how they have fought for language rights and how they have expanded the language movement in Béal Feirste since the Good Friday Agreement. So it's great.
So what's the next move then in the campaign?
Next move is just keep pressure on the university. Unfortunately, there's been no major development since. The students did have a protest here, Cúpla Seachtain a few weeks ago, and different people, like a young girl from the biggest Gaelic in all of Ireland, Coláiste Feirste, she spoke at the day, and she spoke about how she actually wouldn't choose Queen's as a university because she wouldn't feel represented as an Irish speaker. There is also a man and a woman from the Munduruku tribe in Amazon who are currently kind of waging a struggle against capitalism. They spoke on the day in solidarity with us too. So it's all part of a wider anti-colonial decolonising movement for social justice and equality and our rights as Gaels to speak and use our language in this country.
You're inspiring, that young woman. Tell me, why do you love your country so much?
God, do you know what? It's a good question. I'd be laughing at this every day. Ireland are free, will never be at peace, But no, sure, I love it. Like, it's just a very kind of fulfilling life, like to be working towards something collectively and to be meeting very inspiring and active community members and just people who'd inspire you to do as much as you can for your country, So it's great. But geez, I only play a small old role, as you'd say, but it's great to be part of something bigger.
It is great to be part of it because you might well be Irish by birth, but you're Cork by the grace of God, what?
I'm telling you, Sinead vocal at it. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Stay in touch, will you? Stay in touch.
I will, Neil. Gurvila Magat.
Much right. Slán, take care.
All right, Slán.
Oh, that's a great conversation. Lovely, lovely person. Irish by birth, Cork by the grace of God. Actually, you know what? It's probably a good time because speaking of proud Irish people and Irish culture and Irish musical prowess. I don't think it gets better than Christy Moore, who turns 80 today. Christy Moore is 80 today, and he's still powering on, and he's back in the marquee again this summertime. Hopefully we'll have tickets to give away for that and lots more marquee gigs in the coming weeks. He wouldn't be a happy man, I'd say, about Irish being taken out of the colleges in the north. But then again, I think it's fair to say, from many aspects of his life, of course, Christy has he's kind of mellowed in some ways, you know what I mean, and that happens over the years, I suppose. But as I say, what an Irishman and what an incredible performer. I think it gives us an opportunity to do something nice this morning, because we can marry maybe a Cork man in the shape of Jimmy McCarthy, and Christy Moore, a proud Irishman, with the Jimmy McCarthy song about a man who himself had his own troubles. From Cove. So it's a bit of a musical journey for you this morning after the break.